I was born in Mexico City in 1961. I am the grandchild of Eastern European Shtetl-Dwellers who arrived to Mexico at various points between 1919 and 1929 from mostly Poland. Depending on the grandparent, I had one that was born in a place called Nowe Brudno, that is now a suburb of Warsaw, and at that time when she left was a distant village. Other grandparents come from other parts of Poland and from the Ukraine. And for a variety of reasons that had to do with anti-Semitism, with pogroms, or with poverty that they were experiencing. My grandmother on my father's side recalls, she left a document, an autobiographical document, recalls an incident in which she alone was harassed by a number of thugs because she was Jewish and she was buried up until her head. As a result of all that, they immigrated. Many of them were hoping to come to the United States. That was the usual path and pattern. There was also the constellation of the possibility of going to Argentina. But again, depending on the grandparent, some had already siblings in Mexico, or a place called Mexico that they had heard of, but they had really very little knowledge about, and others simply had friends or distant relatives that had mentioned it to them. Be that as it may, because immigration quotas were closed at some point, because they had to be stationed temporarily in the Caribbean or go to Central America, they didn't arrive directly to Mexico. And over time, between 1919 and 1929, they made their way from the coast of the Gulf of Mexico, Veracruz mostly, or the Yucatan, or Guatemala, to Mexico City, where the majority of Eastern European Jews, all of them Yiddish speakers, concentrated. That was also the time, this is not the case of my family, in which another immigration, another Jewish immigration was taking place from the Ottoman Empire, at that time already on its way to collapse. And it is fascinating to me to think that Sephardic and Ashkenazi Jews, never having seen each other, not having a language in common, were arriving at the same ports, sometimes to the very same neighborhoods, and seeing each other for the very first time. And that exposure, that encounter, wasn't unlike the exposure they encountered to the non-Jewish Mexicans, for the first time substituting what a mujik was in Russia or in Poland or in the Ukraine to a campesino in Mexico. That must have been a very shocking experience to most of them.